Hey guys, Ryan here. And the whole purpose of today's video is I wanted to make a video where someone could watch it, instantly hop on a Call of Duty, and see an instant improvement in their aim. So before we get into the settings section of this video, let's talk about how to make aiming easy by taking advantage of aim assist and pre-aiming. In Call of Duty, guys, when you move your left stick in a gunfight, you get this ultra powerful version of aim assist called rotational aim assist. So what this means is even when you're at mid-range, even in almost any real gunfight, you want to be moving your left stick, and this is going to activate rotational aim assist. This is a huge mistake I see a ton of people make because when they get into gunfights, they'll just freeze up. They'll be crouched walking around a corner, they'll start shooting someone, they'll stop moving, and they don't understand that when they hear all these people talk about how good aim assist is and how broken aim assist is, they're really talking about rotational aim assist. So if you aren't using that left thumbstick, you're just missing out on a ton of aim assist that's going to help you aim better. The second thing, guys, is pre-aiming. So let's go back to the beginning of this video, and I want you to watch how I pre-aim these bots. I want you to focus on this first person. I don't know he's there, but I'm going to pre-aim it in case someone's there. On the second one, I'm going to pre-aim the same thing. And in fact, I actually wide and canceled my pre-aim, but he ended up walking there anyways. And yes, these are bots, but this is the exact same thing I do when facing real people and how I have a ton of success in multiplayer in Warzone. By pre-aiming and predicting where your opponents might be, you obviously don't know where your opponents always are, and a lot of time you're just going to pre-aim an area where your enemy isn't. And that's okay, but by learning to pre-aim, you're going to start winning so many more gunfights. And that's why for me, if I'm going to make an aiming video, the first two things I need to talk about are learning to use rotational aim assist and learning to pre-aim. And this is going to take us to the second section, and that's you're probably using the wrong settings. First things first, guys, don't really worry about what sensitivity you're using right now. Let's talk about the two settings you need to change, and that's going to be your aim response curve and your dead zone settings. So first, we need to talk about how to get there. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit start, you're going to go over to your settings tab, and then you're going to go down to controller. So we're going to start by going to the aiming tab at the top of the settings menu. And what you're going to want to go down to is this setting called aim response curve type here. Now yours is going to be defaulted to standard, but I'm going to recommend to use linear or dynamic. And I really think this is the most important setting to focus on. Now when I first recorded this video, I gave a huge elaborate response on the differences between standard, linear, and dynamic, but I'm just going to cut to the chase here, guys. Linear and dynamic are outright far better than standard aim response curve type, and if you are using standard aim response curve, I would highly recommend changing it to dynamic or linear. If you were to look at a list of what the CDL and Warzone pros are using, 80 to 90% are going to be using dynamic, and then the other 10 to 20% are going to be using linear. And this is going to lead me into my next section where we actually talk about what sensitivity to use. So if you go into your controller, guys, one thing I'm going to highly recommend to do is use a sensitivity between 5.5 and 9.9, but this should change based on if you're using linear or dynamic. If you're using linear, you should be using a sensitivity maybe between 7.7 and 10.10, and if you're using dynamic, I'd recommend something between 5.5 and 8.8 if I'm being honest. And this is also going to lead me to what I also think is the most underrated setting you should change right now, and that's going to be your dead zone inputs. So when you go to the controller section, go all the way to the bottom, it's just going to say dead zone inputs. Then you're going to hit square on it, or X, or B, whatever your button's going to be on Xbox. Regardless, you want to make sure your right stick minimum dead zone is somewhere between 0.0 and 0.05. If it's anything higher than 0.05, your aim is going to feel terrible, guys. And the same thing should go for your max dead zone. It should always be at 100. If for some reason your dead zone's at 0.1, your aim's going to feel awful, if I'm being honest. You're just not going to feel in control. You're not going to feel snappy. It's not going to feel responsive. It just feels terrible. You 100% want to use the lowest possible dead zone you can, but if you're experiencing stick drift, well, up it a little bit and try and find that balance to the point where you don't have stick drift. Now that's a quick little touch up on dead zone, and some people might have a more in-depth video, but it's pretty simple, guys. Just use dynamic or linear and make sure your dead zone is as low as possible without having stick drift. And this is going to lead us into our third and final section, and that's going to be that there's really no substitution for time. But I have some good news because I left a key part out of that, and that's there's no substitution for time played where you're actually focused practicing your aim skills. And that's something that 90% of the player base doesn't do. They do not play focusing on the mistakes in their aim. They do not play to get better. They don't think about pre-aiming and making sure they're utilizing rotational aim assist or their tracking skills or whatnot. They don't really think about these things. So while there is no substitution if you're a brand new player and you're just gonna have to play, I will say if you actually play by focusing on these things, your entire experience with the game is gonna change. Everyone I know who actually cares about getting better in some way, regardless if they're really that good or not, because it's not about being the best, it's not about whatever, it's about being just better than whatever you were before. But everyone I know who actually cares about getting better still plays Call of Duty to this day. But all the people I know who really don't care, they just hop on to, mess around and have fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. But those are not the same type of people who watch these videos. But for those people who actually care about getting better, they'll play for years, and what they're going to see is they're going to notice that compared to where they're at a year ago, compared to where they're at 2 years ago, they're so much better. Because that's the truth of it. When you actually start focusing on getting better, when you actually start focusing on your aim, when you actually start focusing on the fundamentals and watching videos like this and applying what I said, you're just going to become a better player. And when you become a better player, you're going to have more fun. You're going to get more kills. You're going to have a better time. You're going to have those memories, those cool highlight plays. You're going to be showing your friends, that little PlayStation share clip or whatever, like, oh, look at what I did here. And that's some of the magic of Warzone and why we play. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people say, Ryan, why are you so sweaty? Well, part of it's because I was trying to go pro 8-7 years ago back in the day, and I sweating my buns off playing, Call of Duty tournaments against pros and whatnot. And I'm not doing that anymore. What I am doing is I'm still just playing to have fun. It's like me in the gym. And when I lift, I know I'm never going to be the strongest person in the world. I'm never going to be, like Arnold or whatnot. But that's okay. I don't need to be to still enjoy lifting, to still have fun, and to still get the benefits of lifting. And I know it's probably a stretch to compare Call of Duty to, lifting weights or exercising or whatnot. But I do fundamentally believe they share a lot of similarities. And if people apply that mindset to the way they play Call of Duty, they probably have a lot better time. It'd be a lot less frustrating. And they're going to start seeing that improvement. And they're going to start thinking they're actually a good player because they probably actually are going to be a good player. So all in all, just to wrap it up, it's not about being the best player in the world, but do take some pride in getting better at the game. And if you start focus practicing and actually putting time in with that mindset and that state of mind, you're just going to get better and better. And that's where the real improvements are going to kick in. It's been Ryan, guys. I hope you have a good day. Peace.